At 5 a.m. one morning in March in 2018, the Moragapan family's home in Biloela was raided by Australian Border Force officials, personnel, who detained the family. They then attempted to deport the Tamil family back to Sri Lanka, where Tamils are persecuted. Fortunately, the local community rallied and fought for this family to be brought back to Biloela, where they belong. Simone Cameron was a founding member of the Home to Biloela, Home to Bilo campaign, and she is our next speaker. Please make her welcome. Simone.
I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Jagera and the Terrible people, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. My name is Simone and I'm from the Home to Bilo campaign. I grew up in Gungaloo country, or Biloela, and later returned there to work. I was a migrant English teacher and I set up some English classes for people seeking asylum in 2013 and 2014. In my classes, there were Hazara men, Rohingyan men and Tamil men. All had sought safety in Australia and had arrived by sea. While I taught those men some things about the mechanics of the English language, they taught me much, much more. They told me stories of war, of loved ones and homes left behind, of perilous journeys by boat to a place they thought they'd get a fair go. And then a new existence in Australia, but an uncertain one. They had escaped a war, but they were still not safe here. Bridging visas that stretched on endlessly and bans for boat people that prevented them from applying for protection visas. In that tiny Queensland TAFE classroom, 600 kilometres north of here, I learned that there is no real peace without the certainty provided by permanent visas. Even the few who had permanent visas couldn't be reunited with their wives and children because they were put at the end of the queue for family reunion visas. In that classroom, I was reminded of the cognitive dissonance that is white Australia's view of itself as a compassionate society. There was a man called Nadez Murugapan in one of my classes. He was a friendly and yet quiet man with a kind smile. Nadez couldn't come to English much because he was always busy working. He had a job at the local meatworks and was also pushing trolleys at Woolworths. I didn't know at the time because he never complained, but Nadez was under the worst kind of pressure imaginable. His claims for asylum had been rejected by the department, who deemed it safe for him to return to Sri Lanka. My family and I left Biloela several months after I'd started these English classes, and I was living in Melbourne in 2018 when Nadez and Priya were first taken from Biloela. A friend sent me the petition started by locals, and I became involved from there. To cut a long 4-year and 4-month-long saga short, Nadez, Priya, Kopika and Thanika have just about gotten their happy ending this year. When it became clear that the LNP could not form government on the night of the 21st of May, we knew, finally, that the persistence, the resistance and the determination that Nadez and Priya had displayed during this battle was going to pay off. And on Friday the 10th of June, we boarded a tiny plane and flew home to Biloela together, where the locals cheered and cried as they welcomed the family home. After a crazy first weekend of welcome home events and a 5th birthday party for Thanika in the park, the family are now settling back into their quiet life in Bilo. The girls have started school and are loving it, and Nadez is making plans to get back into work. The ALP have indicated that there should be no barrier to the family obtaining a permanent visa, and so we wait in hope for this, but are ready to agitate further if need be. But we know that this is just a first step. After 2 decades of hateful and fear-mongering rhetoric about people who arrive here by sea, Australia has completely lost its way. Genuine debate about a complex issue has been completely obscured by an obsession with border security, control of our borders, and talks of orderly queues that people must not subvert. We know that there are approximately 19,000 people on TPVs and Chevs who have been living here for a decade and are yet unable to move forward in their lives with any certainty. They cannot access many crucial services and always live with the threat that they may be sent back to danger if their next application fails. While Labor have promised to grant these people permanent visas, we need to come together to urge them to do this swiftly and easily. They have been through more than enough. And there are around 11,000 people who are in an even more precarious situation. Like Nadez and Priya, those people were denied TPVs and chefs and have been living on a knife's edge, often subsisting on donations when their work rights are cancelled. There have been no promises by the new government to give these people the respite they so desperately need. It is this group of people that really need our help right now. As the campaign for Nadez and Priya winds down, we have had the space to reflect what it was that worked. One thing that was certainly notable about this campaign was that there was broad support for Nadez and Priya and the girls from across the political divide. The Greens were there from the beginning, offering their support in every way they could. Labor came on board and also advocated for the family's return from opposition. We had people like Barnaby Joyce, Jackie Lambie, even Bob Katter supported Nadez and Priya. There were also other LNP politicians who came to the party later, after they received hundreds and thousands of phone calls and emails about our friends. This bipartisan support was crucial to getting the family home, and the way that this support was garnered was by keeping the focus on the story of the family and by using messaging which was positive and focused on what we wanted to achieve. I believe that this appealed to people's better nature and was instrumental in getting them involved in the campaign. Over the past 4 years, we've held dozens of vigils across every state and territory of Australia, and each time we had people from all over the political spectrum attending because we focused on the story of Nadez and Priya and why they should be returned home. So much of our campaign was led by Nadez and Priya. Despite the hateful and defamatory language that was used by certain politicians about them, they wished no harm upon their jailers. If Nadez and Priya can do this, we can do it too. This is not to say that we don't recognise our anger or despair. I'm furious when I think about the way that politicians have abandoned their moral compass in order to score cheap political points. I'm devastated when I think about the lives lost and forever damaged through these punitive policies. And I'm sure we've all felt moments of despair as we've watched our elected representatives choose cruelty over compassion every single time. But I feel sure that our anger and despair alone is not the way out of this. We can use it to propel us forward, but it needs to be channeled into something different if we want to bring people along with us. To do this, we need to change the conversation. We need to demand a reasoned and thoughtful debate from our elected representatives. Real conversation has been stymied for decades, and genuine debate about this complex issue has been obscured by fearful narratives that have turned people against one another. We need to show Labor that they need to do better, much better, and that the mandate they've been given by us is not one for cruelty, but compassion. Let's also give them the space, though, to correct this dismal policy which has destroyed lives and diminished our humanity. When people ask what was the formula to the success of the Home to Bilo campaign, the answer is we followed the example set by Nadez and Priya, who took whatever action they could every single day. It's as simple as that and as difficult as that. Sometimes that action was willing themselves through sleepless nights, waiting for daybreak. Other times it was resisting Serco guards who were trying to force them onto unmarked planes at the airport. Small steps every day, and then repeat. And one day we'll get there. Thank you.